Missing child. That term sends chills up millions of people's spines, whether they have children or not. But in the 1900s, things were quite a bit different. What if they found your missing child, and then years later you realized it might not have been yours at all?
What you are about to hear is believed to be real. Based on witness accounts, testimonies, and public record. This is terrifying and true.
When it comes to missing children stories here on Terrifying and True, I attempt to spread them out a little bit, because reading about missing children, about children who've been kidnapped, children who've been murdered, it's not fun. If you're listening to this, you know that even as a true crime aficionado, occasionally you need a cool breeze to take a breath from and realize, okay, this is not all that I am. So, this story, while it is about a missing child, and a child who probably passed away, it has a lot more to it than that, and I found it simply riveting. We'll dive into the kidnapping of Bobby Dunbar after these quick words from our sponsors. Bobby Dunbar went missing when he was just 4 years old in 1912. After months of searching, they discovered another child, leading to what many consider a wrongful conviction, a custody battle, and at 111 years later, it truly is a mystery. Robert Bobby Dunbar was born on May 23, 1908, in Opelousas, Louisiana, to Leslie and Percy Dunbar. On August 23, 1912, the Dunbar family drove about 40 minutes to Swayze Lake, Louisiana. They went fishing at the lake, and Bobby vanished the same day. Leslie and Percy were compelled to look for their son everywhere, and when they couldn't find him, they called the police. Local and state police officers joined the search for Bobby Dunbar, and a nationwide manhunt was soon launched. Bobby was thought to have been eaten by an alligator, since the family had went fishing, and Louisiana is known for the aquatic predator. They caught the alligators and dissected them in the hopes of discovering something. They even threw explosives into the water, hoping to find Bobby. But there was no sign of him. The Dunbars finally get the news they were anticipating 8 months later. Authorities in Mississippi discovered a boy who matched Bobby Dunbar's description. The authorities tracked down a man named William Walters, who worked as an itinerant handyman and specialized in piano repair. Walter was going through Mississippi with a boy named Charles Bruce Anderson, also known as simply Bruce. Bruce's parents were William's brother and Julia Anderson, who worked for the Walter family. Walter stated the child was left in his care, which Julia agreed to since she needed to go to work. However, William Walters and Bruce Anderson were both taken into custody. The Dunbars were then called to the station to identify the boy as their son. Reports on the reunion of the Dunbars and the boy known as Bruce have never been straightforward. According to one newspaper article, when the boy saw Leslie Dunbar, he shouted, "Mother," and raced to hug her. Other media said that the Dunbars were skeptical that it was their son, Bobby. The Dunbars had another son, Alonzo, who was mentioned in newspaper articles. According to one witness, when the boy spotted Alonzo, he recognized him right away, rushed to him, and kissed him. According to another newspaper article, the boy showed no signs of recognizing Alonzo at all. Leslie took the boy home for the night and said the next day that he was her son because she recognized moles and scars on his body. Because she was able to identify the boy as her son, the police allowed the family to take Bobby home. However, that is not the end of the story. A few days later, Julia Anderson arrives at the police station, claiming that William Walters was looking after her child while she went to look for a job, and that the boy was her son, Bruce. She explained that she was searching for a new job, and that because she would be busy, she asked William Walter to take Bruce for a couple of days until she found a new job. Police then asked the Dunbars to return Bobby to the station and conduct a lineup with 5 boys of similar ages to see if Julia Anderson could identify her claimed son. One would naturally believe that they could identify their own child in a crowd. Well, then it would make sense that they could also identify their child in a police lineup. However, Julia Anderson was unable to identify her child. She inquired whether her son was the boy recovered. Police did not respond, and she then indicated that she was unsure about identifying her son. The next day, she met the boy and was allowed to undress him by police, and this time she claimed unequivocally that this was her son Bruce. By this point, word had spread that she could not identify her son the first time, casting doubt on her character. People also discovered that she had 3 children out of wedlock, 2 of whom had died. Julia Anderson was unable to afford a court fee to appear, so she was forced to return home to North Carolina, leaving her son with the Dunbar family, who have been convinced that they indeed have their son, Bobby. Julia Anderson appeared in favor of William Walters during his trial in Louisiana for kidnapping charges. William was in court attempting to show that the boy he was with was Bruce Anderson, Julia Anderson's son. The court then delivered its decision, finding William Walters guilty of kidnapping Bobby Dunbar, and the boy the Dunbars took that day went by the name Bobby Dunbar. Bobby Dunbar showed signs of remembering his home when he was returned to it, and he adjusted well to the people he lived with, and even played with his brothers. Julia Anderson established a new life in Poplarville, Mississippi, where she married and had 7 children. She became a devout Christian, assisted in the establishment of a church, and worked as a nurse and midwife. Her children reported that while she was content with the life she had established for herself and her family, she frequently spoke about the loss of her son, Bruce, and the family always assumed that the Dunbars had kidnapped him. Julia Anderson passed away on February 1st, 1940, and was laid to rest in Poplarville. William Walters had been imprisoned for 2 years for kidnapping, but after his attorneys successfully appealed his conviction, which was reversed by the Louisiana Supreme Court, Walter was subsequently given a new trial. But due to the high cost of the first trial, they chose not to try him again, and he was released. Walter returned to his pre-arrest lifestyle after being released from prison, and then William Walter died on April 7th, 1945, and was laid to rest beside his wife in Pueblo, Colorado. The boy raised by the Dunbars married and had 4 children before passing away on March 8, 1966, and was buried in Opelousas, Louisiana. Margaret Dunbar Cutright, one of Bobby Dunbar's grandchildren, began examining the events that occurred years later. She interviewed Julia Anderson's children and reviewed the documents and evidence from the William Walters trial. But the results left her with far more questions than answers. In 2004, the Associated Press interviewed the family about the story. Bob Dunbar Jr. contributed his DNA to finally put the mystery to rest. The results revealed that Dunbar Jr. was not related by blood to his alleged cousin, Alonzo Dunbar, Bobby Dunbar's younger brother. That is, the boy the Dunbars said was their son, Bobby Dunbar, was wrong. The Andersons were overjoyed to learn that the test had revealed the truth. The evidence against William Walter was later exonerated, filling the family with happiness. On the other hand, what happened to Bobby Dunbar remains a mystery, even after 111 years. Many people believed he was eaten by an alligator or simply drowned. Some believe Leslie and Percy Dunbar did something to their son and then covered it up by claiming their son was missing and using Bruce Anderson as a cover-up. Police claimed to have discovered footprints leading away from the lake, and many locals claimed to have seen a suspicious-looking man with Bobby Dunbar, but nothing was ever proven. And 111 years later, the mystery persists with the same question, the same chilling curiosities. What truly happened to little Bobby Dunbar? Stories like these come up a lot when you're researching true crime. Missing children. It's a terrifying concept, and one that is a true nightmare to all parents, or even aunts and uncles, or even just you and me. But in the past, before DNA, before general forensics even, justice wasn't even nearly as efficient as it is now, and don't get me wrong, the justice system is still full of flaws, but this seems to have really, truly failed everyone involved. Although, the Dunbars did in a way get their boy back. It just wasn't exactly theirs. It was a child who hadn't developed enough to be able to truly connect with its blood family. Does this sound terrifying to you? Because this sounds terrifying to me. Have you ever sat with your family members, your loved ones, and thought, maybe I don't fit in here? But then you go, oh, no. These are my family. Well, little Bobby Dunbar, as he was called, may have gotten that feeling many times, but simply shook it off and decided to enjoy his Thanksgiving dinner. But what do you think? How do you think this was handled? And do you think these misdeeds were purposeful? Terrifying and True is narrated by Enrique Couto. It's executive produced by Rob Fields. Produced by Daniel Wilder with original theme music by Ray Mattis. If you have a story you'd like us to cover on the program, send us an email at weeklyspooky@gmail.com. And if you want to support us in a very direct way, go to weeklyspooky.com and click on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can support us and allow us to keep the spooky rolling and rolling and rolling. And I want to say a big thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay just a little bit more to hear their names on the show. And they are Bobbletopia, Megan Hua, Julia Kirsch, Christopher Sullivan, Brent McCullough, Gino Lyons, Steve King, Karen Weemet, Jack Kerr, and Craig Cohen. Thank you all so very much, and we'll see you next Monday.